Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. I hope that you're all doing well. So today in Alchemortis development, I think I'm going to experiment with doing something to make the map traversal more interesting. So that's part of a broader effort that I've been doing with the obelisk to just make the map more dynamic. What I want to do as well is experiment with having a little notoriety penalty region that kind of moves around the map. to kind of force the player to maybe make different movement choices. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but I have an idea for something. So I do want to just experiment with that and see how that feels. I'm not sure that that's going to be something that makes it into the final game, but that's something that I want to do. And so yeah, that's what we'll be spending the stream doing today. So we'll see how that works. But before I get into it, I want to remind everyone that Alchemortis is available for wish listing. So if you're interested, please go ahead and check that out. And that would help me out quite a bit. You can also support me on Patreon. The top Patreon tier here has a couple of nice perks, one of which is you'll receive a Steam key for Alchemortis when the game launches. So if you subscribe to this tier for 1 month, at least 1 month, then you will get an Alchemortis Steam key and your name will be listed in the Alchemortis credits. So if that sounds good to you, check that out. There's also a bunch of other perks you can read about at the Patreon page there. And I also have my Udemy courses available for sale. So if you want to learn how to build games in the Godot engine, check that out. That is a great way to do so, and it's a great way to support me as well. All right, you can also join the Discord, by the way. That's free. That's linked in the description below, alongside everything else. Okay, let's say hello to everyone. Hello, Meep. Welcome back. Base XRP, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. At work, so I'll be mostly lurking. Yeah, sounds good. Lots of people lurk on these streams, which is totally fine. So my idea is, if for the people who are familiar with the game so far, when you beat a boss, you get these little eyeball things that show up on the map nodes, and I can just show you here. So you get these little eyeball things that show up on the map nodes. And those eyeballs are representative of the Inquisition's eyes being on the node, which basically just increases the notoriety penalty that you gain if you visit the node. So that's kind of the mechanic that I came up with for encouraging the player to leave certain regions after the boss has been defeated. But what I want to do is maybe have these notoriety penalty regions available prior to defeating the boss. So the idea is we'll take one of these eyeballs here and we'll have it float around the map, or float around a region at least. So let me do this. I'll just start up the game and show you. So you have an eyeball float around the region, and then every node within a certain radius of the eyeball could have a notoriety penalty incurred. So you imagine here, like, you've got an eyeball sitting here, and that eyeball, maybe it has, you know, a moderately large radius, so that anything that's over here is going to have an increased notoriety penalty. And it will move in some way. So I'm thinking about planting it sort of like in the middle of roads. So it's not over top of a node, it'll be like in between nodes. And then it can just float over to different points, here, here, or here, and it could just keep going randomly. I think I will have to make it somewhat predictable, but yeah, I think that's the idea. We're gonna see how that feels. I don't know, that may end up just feeling bad rather than interesting, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. So anyway, the first thing to do is let's create a scene for that. Moving encounters. Well, this would kind of be like, it's not an encounter per se, because I don't think you'd be able to interact with it, although I guess I could make it interactable. But yeah, the idea is that this is just a passive thing that's kind of floating around that you could either choose to avoid, or you could choose to take the notoriety penalty hit if you want, and just deal with those consequences, right? We do be Alchemortising, yeah. I just joined, so I'm guessing what you're I'm just guessing what you're talking about. Oh, I see. No, I'm making a floating notoriety region penalty eyeball, which will also probably come with some increased rewards as well. So it's not just a pure punishment. But oh my gosh, my cat just sneezed 4 times in a row. Anyway. Yeah, so we're going to do like a floating eyeball thing that just kind of is a roaming notoriety penalty increase for any node that it's floating above. So we're going to see how that works. Like I said, this is just going to be experimental, and actually I'm just going to do moving notoriety penalty, create a new branch for this. Okay, so what do I want to save this? What do I want to call it? I'm just going to call it something very literal, floating eye. All right. Do I want to put this in? Scenes UI map. Yeah, we might as well put it in there. Do I want to do it in there? Gameplay. Oh, this is going to be the hardest thing. Where do I put this? I'll just put it in the map, I suppose. Okay, floating eye. Let's add a sprite 2D. We'll just use this texture for now. Okay, so we've got the floating eye. Let's just go ahead and add a script to it, just so that we have it. Game.ui.map. Okay, and we'll deal with all the scripting in a second. So we've got a scene that we can use for this. Now let's go to the, let's see, map container. Now the thing that I think is going to be important here is I think that, I don't know, is this going to have to be seeded? Like, should the path of this floating eyeball be the same if two players use the same seed? That's a question. That's a good question. I suppose I won't make it that way at first. We're just going to get it working first, and then if I need to make it seeded, I will do that later. What a week, huh? Yeah, what a year this week has been. Good morning, Emerson. Okay, so we've got this map container here. Where are we placing the roads? The map decoration placer. Do I have all the road points? I mean, I guess, yeah, I do. Let me look at my seeded run here. So I think what I'm going to want to do is I'm probably going to want to do private read-only dictionary int. I'll just create a new configuration object. Let's see. Data configuration. Let's do floating eye configuration. Floating eye configuration. Let's do private run map node. Node A. Private run map node. Node B. One second here. Read only. All right. I don't know. So basically this is going to be used to determine the position of the thing. How it moves, I don't know. We're going to figure that out in a second. But let's do a floating eye configuration. Generate floating eye configurations. Private void generate floating eye configurations. Hello, Chris. Good morning. How are you doing? Hello, Kelso. Good to see you. Okay, so what we need to do in here is we need to iterate over the notoriety regions here. And we need to choose some initial positioning for these floating eyes. So we've got the run map here. I think. Where's the map? Yeah, run map. Can I get... I need to get the edges for a region. Oh, I have the notoriety region here. So I guess what I'll do is I'll just get the notoriety region. And then I can get the edges of that region specifically. So var region edges is equal to run map dot notoriety regions I dot get edges. And then we basically just want to... We can just choose a random edge here, and that edge will contain node A and node B here. Am I using this weight anywhere? What is this? Oh, the minimum spanning tree has a weight. Interesting. Okay, never mind. So what we're going to do now is we are going to... Well, let me think about this. I wonder if the floating eye, it probably... This probably needs to have a notoriety region set for it. Private read-only int notoriety region. Okay, let's just do this. Var starting edge is equal to region edges rng.randi range region edges.count -1. And we'll just do that. Okay. So we've got the floating eye configurations. Now we can go into the map, the run map. Where is this? The map container, I guess. I'm gonna create a new node in here. We'll do foreground, I guess. Node private node 2D foreground. All right, so we've got this set seated run here. We are going to need to do this. Let's create a new method. Call this place floating eyes. Hello, Mikarodu. I don't know how to Mikarodu. Welcome. Good to see you again. Hello, Rin. Always good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Actually, not that bad. I have a day off work tomorrow, so I can work on the jam game. Oh, very nice. That's awesome. Have you seen my game on itch? I sent it in Discord. I saw you posted it. I haven't looked at it yet, though. Miko-rido. Okay. Got it. I got it. Okay. So... place floating eyes. What I'm going to need to do here... this is going to be a little bit weird, I guess. public floating eye configuration array, get floating eye configurations. We'll return the values out of that. So var configurations is equal to seeded run dot get floating eye configurations. For each var config and configurations, we're going to do iScene.instantiate. So I guess I'll just go ahead and, oh, I don't want to do that. Export private pack. Am I using this iScene? Oh, I don't think this is used anymore. Did I forget to remove this? I forgot to remove this. Get rid of this. Get rid of that. Yeah, none of this is used anymore. Can't believe I forgot to clean this up. Well, it's getting cleaned up now. Better late than never. I'm pretty sure none of these are used anymore. Cool. Packed scene, floating eye scene. So we're going to go ahead and grab that floating eye scene.instantiate as floating eye. Public void set configuration. We will set global position is equal to config.node a. So yeah, we're going to want to do this. Actually, let's do, we can just add a method in here. Public vector2 get position. Okay. Config.getPosition. We don't need this seeded run yet, I don't think. We're probably going to need to pass in more information into this floating eye, but we'll see what happens. Alrighty. Oops, I didn't mean to run it. That's all right. Hello, James Wid. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. I'm staying late at work to database maintenance. No game development for me. Uh-oh. That's not fun. If you do decide to play it, that would actually mean a world to me. If you gave your honest thoughts. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I can't make any promises, but if I have some time, I'll try to take a look at it. I never called this place Floating Eyes. There we go. I'm very sorry to hear that. Gotta do database maintenance and outside of peak hours, right? All right, let's see what we got. So there's a floating eye there. Probably gonna want to make it float more above that, but that's all right. So we got the floating eye being placed, and there should be one per region. Yeah. So we may actually end up spawning multiple, but I think that's all right. See, the idea now is I'm just going to do something very basic here. Let's create a new sprite, 124 by 124. And we're going to open this up. Okay. Let's sprite, or no, what am I doing? Edit. Oh wait, I can just do this. Outline, we want to do inside. That doesn't work. So we'll do this first. Oops, we'll fill that first. Yeah, we'll fill that first, and then we'll do outline inside with that color. Why does that not work? Well, I don't know why that didn't work. That's all right. We'll just go ahead and fill that in there. Anyway, and then we'll get rid of this. All right, Alchemortis. Assets. We'll just call this I radius. Floating eye radius.png. Let's go to the floating eye here. Bring that in. I don't know, let's see. Need advice. Just spending time learning game yet can't finish one. The typical advice for when you can't finish a game is just to cut the scope radically. So just make the game a lot simpler than maybe even you would like to make it. And then just focus on getting that simple game finished and wrapped up. This is why people recommend also game jams. It's like, if you have a deadline of 48 or 72 hours, you kind of have to, you're forced to cut scope and make a very focused game. You do game development full time. Yeah, I mean, semi full time. If I say I do game development full time, that would imply that I'm making all of my money from game development, and that's not true. Most of my income is coming from my Udemy courses actually right now. I did make a good amount of money from Gunforged, which of course helped a lot, but yeah, I mean, as far as like what my daily efforts are, yeah, it's entirely focused on game development. I don't have a job, like a real job. So Alchemortis is going to be, like I said before, it's going to be a make or break moment. If it sells well, then I can continue doing game dev. And if it doesn't sell well, then, well, I'm going to have to find another regular job. So we'll see. We will see. How feasible do you think it is to add 3D models, sounds, and menus in 4 days? I don't have any experience with 3D development. And it also depends on, I guess, how much 3D stuff you want to do. If you're only adding a couple of models, then yeah, 4 days is perfectly reasonable, I think. I'm thinking that if there's not going to be enough time, I'll have to let some of those things go for the jam. Yeah, I would focus mostly on the models that you absolutely need. And so the way that I usually approach like game jams is I get all of the art and visuals that are absolutely needed in the game first, and then I will do all of the menus and stuff, and then I'll see if I have time. And if I have time, I'll go back and I'll add more art assets, or I'll update some art assets, and then I'll add animations to the menus and stuff. But you definitely want to get the core of it working first. I found finishing my first project unlocked the ability to just finish things in general for me. Yeah, I think that's true. What made you go toward 2D instead? I've just always been 2D developer. I've never really done 3D game development. 2D is what I'm comfortable with, so that's what I'm sticking with. I'm about half through the multiplayer shooter course now. Just bought one of your other courses. Do they come with Disco access? You can join the Discord for free for any reason. There are only a couple of exclusive hidden Discord channels, and those are for the Patreon members. But other than that, the Discord is wide open for everyone. Are sounds important? Yes, sounds are very important. I actually have a video on this channel which contains game jam tips. Because I've made a couple of game jam games that have scored very highly. Like one of my games was, I think, number 72 in the Game Maker's Toolkit jam, which is one of the bigger jams. I've had a couple of top 100 game jam entries for Ludum Dare. And so that video, I kind of show you, or I explain various tips for making your game stand out and increasing your game's ability to score highly. And one of those tips is to, yes, focus on the game feel and polish. That's actually a huge part of the gameplay experience. And what you're doing for a jam game is like, I think a lot of people, when they make jam games, they're too concerned about, is there enough content in this game or whatever, but that's not the proper way to think about a jam game. A jam game is like, you want to give somebody an excellent 5-minute experience. Like, expect players to play your game for like no more than 5 minutes. And so that means that in 5 minutes, what you need to do is you need to impress them with the visuals, you need to impress them with the audio, and then you also need to show them your main mechanic as quickly as possible. If you can do all of those 3 things within 5 minutes, people are going to walk away from your game saying, oh, that was really fun, So what I would say, even if for a jam game, is that if you are torn between adding more content or spending the rest of your time doing polish and sound effects, you should focus on the polish and sound effects. Yeah, thank you, Base XRP. Yeah, you can join the Discord anytime. My game is just using placeholder art for now. Yeah, placeholder art is fine for development. Good morning, Ninja Link. I can't stand placeholder art, so I just do somewhat finished art up front. Just can't seem to get into making it without at least some finished art. Yeah, I agree. What's the best way to get sounds? I heard about BFXer and stuff. The Sonus GDC audio bundle, SONNISS GDC audio bundle. There's like a couple 100 gigabytes of sounds that you can use for free in your commercial and non-commercial projects. That's where I get all my sound effects basically. And if I need a specific sound effect, sometimes I'll buy a sound effects pack that has that sound effect that I need. But the Sonus GDC audio bundle should give you plenty to work with. I'll accept it in other games, just not when making games. Yeah. Okay, so now we've got this little radius, this little guy here. Now the question is that radius big enough? Might need to make that a little bit bigger. I mean, this is not really an important part yet, but... What am I doing? Why does that not work? I don't understand that. Anyway. Okay. Make the radius a little bit bigger. All right, that's not super important. So we need to make this actually affect some nearby nodes here. Not game jams, but I've won hackathons before and a similar concept. The elevator pitch vertical slice of the full experience is way better than having more breadth with placeholders, less polish. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, you got it. Oh, I forgot how to say it again. Mikirodu? Miko Rido. I'm sorry, I can't. Miko Rido. I got it. Okay, that seems like a more reasonable radius there. So we're gonna have this thing float around and modify the nodes that it's touching. Hello, Ali. Welcome. Good to see you again. That's fine, yeah. I don't know. I just can't. I don't know. This is a tongue twister, I guess. Anyway. So that's looking good. So we need to make this thing float around the map. And we also need to make it modify the nodes that it's touching. So how am I going to do that? We already have this like map node effects manager. Let me look at the obelisk. This has the seeded run reference. So I think I will need to pass in the seeded run here. So place floating eyes. So we're going to need to apply some map node effects. So let's do private void update map node effects. And let's do this. Const int radius is equal to 196. So var nodes in radius is equal to seeded run dot run map dot. Am I not? Let me see. Obelisk event state machine, get nodes in radius, context current node. Oh, I need a current node. Get nodes in pixel radius. Let's do this. Public list run map node, get nodes in radius, vector 2 position, float radius. Why is that using system numerics? Don't do that. Use Godot, please. Thank you. So when I get nodes in radius, global position radius. So we've got the update map node effects, nodes in radius, and we want to filter out where x.node event type dot is not equal to data.event type dot checkpoint. You can keep calling me MKRD if that's any easier to say. I might do that. I actually already added and integrated all the audio stream players. I just have to find and add the sounds themselves to the game. Yeah, that's good. Should be easy then. Hello, Mike. In terms of keeping your code clean, how do you divide code so that you don't have unnecessary variables? So that an object doesn't have a damage parameter if it never attacks, but other does. Yeah, so I think, I mean, it depends on the context, but that's kind of where like composition can help. So I'm a big proponent of like using composition-based design, and I have a video on that on this channel as well. So you can look at that if you want. But basically, composition, you can think of it as essentially creating your own library of nodes that you can attach to your scenes depending on which functionality you need. So you might have a hitbox component, you might have a hurtbox component, you may have a health component. And so you can selectively add the features that you need to whatever object you're making or whatever scene you're making by just including those components when you need them. So I think maybe the problem that you might be running into is like if you're using inheritance, you might have damage on a base class or whatever, but then you inherit eventually in a script that doesn't really need damage, and that can kind of get a little bit messy. So yeah, if you can isolate those things into components, then you can just selectively, like I said, selectively include the features that you need. Can you show an example in your current project? Well, the thing is, I'm not really using composition in this project because it's not really applicable to the kind of, because it's an auto battle, it's a turn-based auto battler. So I'm using composition in a scripting sense, but I'm not doing it with Godot scenes. So I don't think I really have a good example of that. The Inheritance Diamond Problem Classic, yeah. I used Inheritance, or I used Composition very frequently in Gunforged. All of my entities had like 25 components on them, which was a lot, but even though there was a lot of components on each individual entity, it ended up making the code a lot cleaner and more maintainable, in my opinion anyway. I embraced messy code when doing jams. Yeah, when doing jams, messy code is fine. If you're going to do it, I've gone to compositional design, look into ECS. It's in your YouTube channel. Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, welcome, Nick, by the way. Good to see you again. All right, so update map node effect. So I need to create a new map node effect. Base map node effect. Let's do new file. Let's just call it floating eye penalty. Oh, I need to rename. Oh, shoot. I already messed it up. Okay, floating eye penalty map node effect. Private const int penalty. We'll just make it like 4 or something. Alrighty, and I need a description. Get description. Notoriety penalty increased by occurrences times penalty. So how am I actually going to do this? So I've got a wanted level in here. I'm setting the wanted level here. Where am I getting the wanted level? Get wanted level. So let's do this. Public static int modify wanted level. Run map node. We'll just do this. Oh, we need to pass in the int wanted. Actually, we can do, let's see. I think this is fine. Oh, maybe not. Return wanted level there. Return effects.of type. Floating eye penalty map node effect. Aggregate? What? No. Public virtual int modify wanted level. Okay. Effect, modify wanted level current. Oh, nice. I think that'll work. Okay, so we're going to aggregate all those. Okay, so update map node effects, node and radius. We want to do this. For each var node in nodes in radius. Map node effects manager. Dot apply map node effect. Oh, do I actually need to get it? Okay, never mind. Let's do this. Apply map node effect, floating eye penalty map node effect. Okay. Now I'm going to have to manage removing that effect as well when the eyeball moves out of the radius, but that's all right. I'm going to have to animate that as well. Anyway, so that should basically work. Base map node effect, yeah. Well, let's just see if that works. Apply map node effects. Oh, I never called here. Update map node effects. Okay, let's see what happens. I love the tutorials, thank you. Or are you saying to Nick? Never mind. Are you, wait, what, are you famous, Nick Glenn? Good morning, Sanzo. Have you seen Playable Workshop, JKH? Oh, okay. I'm reading a bunch of chats that are not directed at me. Floating eye 33. Parameter data.tree is null. What? What do you mean it's null? Oh, I'm not in the tree yet. All right. We love your tutorials too, yeah. Just looked it up, seems hella wholesome. Oh, something's wrong. What is broken here? I love your tutorials too, Firebelly. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'm just over here with my streamer arrogance, assuming that everyone is praising me. Oh, I just realized that the radius is actually half of what I think it is. That's what's happening. Right, I set that this is diameter. Oops. It's supposed to be 98. That would explain it. This should be a lot more correct now. This should be more correct. Okay, so now we've got this. Notoriety penalty increased by 4. Now the problem is I'm actually never using that, so we need to go to run map node here. If is visited, artifact manager, get artifact, yeah, that's fine. If is visited, we're going to return map node effects manager dot modify wanted level for this wanted level. Then we're going to do map node effects manager modify wanted level. Yeah, that's fine. So now if I look at this, yeah, I should see that these notoriety penalties are much higher. Now I do probably want to add, some kind of positive for these things as well. but we will worry about that in a second. So now the next step is to make this thing float around the map after you move. So I'm going to commit this because this is all working. Initial setup of floating eye. Now we actually need to make it move. I think the best way to do this is going to be to, let's see, public ready. Can we do get run manager? Yeah, so we can grab the run manager in here. We're going to want to hook into a signal. Map entered. I don't know if I want to do that. Maybe I do want to do that. Map entered. Map entered, player resurrected, visited node. Probably just want to use the map entered signal. So we'll do run manager dot connect, run manager dot signal name dot map entered, callable dot from on map entered. So what I'm going to want to do is I want to set up a new place for this. So private void on map entered. Let's do this. No, wait, I don't need that. We are going to want to determine a new travel position. Let's change the target position here. I'm probably going to also want private hash set. I guess it doesn't need to be a hash set. We could do a list. Run map node. Affected nodes. Affected nodes dot add node. So for each var node in affected nodes, I want to remove that map node effect. I guess we'll just do this. Public void remove first map node effect of type. Copilot coming in clutch here. First to default if effect to remove is not equal to null. We'll figure that out in a second. I might need to change these signals here. Effects cleared. We'll get rid of this one. Return this. Okay. All right, so I just renamed a signal there. It's all good. So now in the floating eye here, var map effects manager, this dot get map node effects manager, map node effects manager dot remove first map node effect of type. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's just call change position in here. I'm going to determine a new position in here, get new target position, update map node effects, and animate. The floating eyeball looks a little bit like a beholder. Yeah, that's good. I think it looks pretty cool. Hello, Snupbill. Thank you for the IDR 10,000. Also, welcome back, Wooius. Thank you for the IDR 10,000. Very much appreciate that, as always. And we have the message yummers. Welcome back, Snupbill. Always good to see you. Look at all these yummers. Is it possible to use a node-based state machines with animation trees? I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with animation trees to give you a good answer to that. Chris says you just need to write what your FSM controller has access to. I'm working on animation tree interaction as we speak, so I have a good understanding. Hello, Clickertail. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. All right, so we need to get a new target position in here. So we've got the affected nodes here. We're going to do affected nodes.clear. Now we need to move this guy. So we're going to say target position is equal to global position here. We need to come up with a new position. So we need to get neighboring edges. I think what I would do to get neighboring edges is I would just do... I might just put this in here, public list edge, get neighboring edges. For each var connected node in node A dot connected nodes. If connected node is equal to node B, that's not what I want. Connections. If connected node is equal to node B, continue. You can just do result.add edge. For each var connected node in node B dot connections. Okay. I think that should work. So now in here, what I'm going to do is var valid edges, or let's do neighboring edges. neighboring edges is equal to config dot, nope. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I shouldn't do it in here. I mean, maybe I can. I don't know. I don't know if this is a good way to do it, but change edge. Okay. Neighboring edges is equal to, I'm actually not storing the configuration, so maybe I should do that. Okay, configuration.get neighboring edges. Var random edge is equal to neighboring edges. mathutil.rng.randirange. Oh, I also need to do some extra filtering in here. If connected node dot notoriety region is not equal to notoriety region, continue. We got to keep the I in the notoriety region. So get the random edge here. We'll do configuration.change edge, random edge node A, random edge node B. Target position is equal to configuration.get position. Then we'll do update map node effects. I actually think maybe I should put this in the update here. What the heck just happened? Yeah, that makes more sense. And now we need to animate it here. Can you help me with something? I want the character to snap his feet. Oh, is this for Chris? I'll keep looking it up. Concept is very hard for me to understand. I'm trying to make a shooter, so I need my character's arm and head to look at where she's aiming while strafing and stuff. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I can't help, but I think there are people in the Discord server that can help, so if you want to join, I'm sure there will be somebody willing to help you out. Okay, so we need to do the animation in here now. So we're changing the target position. I think that I'm just going to set up a simple tween here. So we're going to do create tween. Tween position, tween global position, I guess. This vector to target position, we'll just set it to 1F. That's it. Okay, let's see if that works. Unfortunately, I don't have any eyeballs easily accessible. Let's see if I can get a map. Oh, there's an eyeball there, I guess. Should have been fine. Oh well. We'll keep looking, see if we can generate a map with an eyeball close by. Oh, there we go, okay. So here's the eyeball here. That doesn't look correct. But let's just visit the booster and then we'll see if the eyeball moves. My inventory is so full, what the heck? Okay, so it just floated over that edge now. And if I enter this combat here, it should move to another edge. Just moved back to that one. Very nice. So this is a 9 notoriety penalty. I'm just going to make sure this works too. So I should go to 18. Cool. Okay. So that's kind of working. Oops, I accidentally pressed F9. Okay, I think that's kind of working. Go to my obelisk here. It did not clear this one. Why didn't it clear? Oh, it also didn't update. Did I do something wrong here? Oh, right. This needs to be the target position here. That's what I forgot to do. On map node. Oh, it's calling change position on the very first enter as well. That's kind of unfortunate. So I'm just going to fix this the easy way. Private pool is first map enter handled. Okay. We don't want them to animate their position as soon as the map gets entered. Do you generally write your own shaders or get them from online, like the ones in the menu? So I do write a lot of my own shaders. And for the more complicated shaders, I usually use like the AI coding assistants to do them. But if it's like just a basic noise shader, I can just typically do that myself. But I have used shaders from online before, for sure. There's a website called GodotShaders.com, which is very, very helpful for that kind of thing. I think it kind of would be interesting too. I think it would kind of be interesting too to maybe show the eyeballs on the map. So maybe I wonder if this would be cool. So the eyeballs are floating around, but they may be floating around out here, right? What might be cool is for the eyeballs to temporarily reveal through the fog of war for the player. So that could be a way of making them useful while also establishing a penalty. So if you visit a node that's currently under the gaze of an eyeball, you'll get an increased notoriety penalty. But I think it might be useful too to have it reveal nodes for the player. So the eyeball might float over a node that you want, and so you keep a note of that, and then it wanders away and returns that node to the fog of war, and then you can kind of like seek out that node maybe. Because I was thinking, you know, I don't know if this should be a purely negative thing, this eyeball here. I do think it's serving its purpose, because like if I'm in this situation now and there's an eyeball here and I want to get to that enchant, now I have to decide, I mean there's another enchant here, but now I have to decide, do I want to go the long way around and hope that the eyeball is gone, or do I want to just eat the notoriety penalty and get that upgrade that I want? But I think to kind of like make it also useful, it could reveal the fog of war as well, and then you can kind of like see it through the fog of war and take a note of everything that's been revealed to you. That sounds fun. More decision making while traveling the map. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, what do you guys think about that? So have the eyeball reveal nodes in the Fog of War that haven't yet been revealed by the player. I think that could be cool. I think that could be really cool. I might have to make some improvements to my Fog of War system, though, which is fine. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break. I'll wait for you guys to opine on that. But I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and when I come back, we'll do some more experimenting with this. Obviously, right now I can see all of the fog, or I can see through the Fog of War because of the debug settings, but when I'm actually in the game here, I'm not going to know where those eyeballs are. So it'd be kind of interesting to have the eyeball like up here. Oh, I can still hover over these things through the Fog of War. That's not good. All right, I'm going to have to fix that. I think that's easy to fix. I think so. Just having a downside would be kind of annoying, I think. Yeah. So I guess there's a couple options for the floating eyeball. One option is to just make it also buff the nodes that it's hovering over, so we can kind of see it here, right? And the other option is just to have it reveal, so it can provide like sight for you while also moving its way around the map. And maybe I'll make it so that it can't backtrack as well. Make it unable to backtrack. Reveal Fog of War temporarily. Yeah, we'll play around with that stuff. So anyway, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and when I come back, we will experiment with some of those things. All right, I'm back. Well, let's see what we can do about this. Let's see what we can do about this. So I actually haven't been in like the fog of war stuff for a while, so fog of war canvas layer, fog of war texture. This is using fog of war shader. $128 by $128. Okay. How is this actually being set up? Fog of war texture set camera position. Okay, all right, I see. Add revealed position. Where is this being called? It's being called in game map. On node revealed. Oh, I see. Okay. Interesting. So what's essentially happening is I'm storing a bunch of these revealed positions here. And I'm drawing this fog reveal texture at those positions. This might not be the best way to do it. I've been wanting to change this to like a sub viewport instead with actual sprites. I wonder if now is the time to do that. Let me think. Do I want to spend the time doing that right now? How does this actually work? There's a shader on here. So what's essentially happening is, how do I explain this? Oops. So what's essentially happening is, for the fog of war, I'm just drawing a black texture here. And then when I go into, or when I want to reveal something, I've got this fog reveal here. And so what's essentially happening is, for every revealed position, a gradient texture like this is being added. Like so. And so this is what the texture actually ends up looking like, where all the white spots are revealed positions and the black spots are where the fog of war is. And these are radial gradients, which is used in the shader. So anything that's pure white needs to be purely like transparent. So that's how I get the transparency sections. But then as you go outward to the edges here, that's where I get the sort of fog edge effect. That's where that comes in. So that gradient value there, which is a grayscale value because it's a white radial gradient against a black background, it ultimately becomes grayscale at the edges here, you see. And so that's what's used to determine where the edges should be animated. So there's like a threshold value that animates the edges. And then the shader will change all of the colors. So it will set that animated border here to that purple color, and then everything that's pure black becomes my color palette color, and anything that's pure white just becomes transparent. So this texture essentially just gets overlaid over everything else, and that's how I have the fog of war. So I'm gonna need to add now a reveal, a light or a fog of war reveal source that matches the floating eye that I've been making here. And so one way to do that is to just continue building on what I've done here and somehow match up a texture, an instance of a texture being drawn to the position of that floating eye. But what I have been wanting to do is I actually want to convert this. Right now it's just using a canvas group here with the custom drawing functions. So in here, for every revealed position, it's actually inside of the draw callback. It's actually just drawing that texture using the custom drawing API, essentially. But if I change this to a sub viewport, and I just make a viewport, I can essentially just use a sprite 2D for all of the instances that I need to draw of light. And then I can take that viewport texture. So the viewport will still be, like the viewport texture will be generating a black texture with white circles on it still. But then what I could do is I could take that viewport texture and apply that shader to it in the same way that I'm currently doing in here. So I think, let me think. I think that might be what I want to do. I'm using a sub viewport in other places. I think that's just going to be a lot easier to manage. That's what comments are for. I am why is my comment highlighting not working? I am militantly anti-comment. People that watch my streams know that. Militantly anti-comment. But anyway, so I think I want to use a sub viewport for this. Does it need to be a canvas layer still? I suppose it does. I don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Sub viewport. 640 by 360. You said you weren't using composition in this project. What is it that you're using instead? I mean, the thing about this project is that it's all of the systems that make the game work are not really, I don't know how to describe it. They're very controlled in like a top-down way. So, for example, the auto battler system is orchestrated by essentially like one or two nodes that just like, they just reach out and they call stuff directly on the thing. So nothing is like the difference between like a real-time game and a turn-based game is that in a real-time game, each entity kind of controls its own behavior, right? So you've got to have like pathfinding and you've got to control when it attacks and when it spawns hitboxes and all that stuff. But in the turn-based game, like an auto battler, everything needs to happen in a very specific order. So you actually don't want, like for instance, each of my cards on the board, I don't want my cards to act alone. They need to be acted on by something else. They need to be orchestrated by a third party. So it's a very top-down kind of architecture where I've got like a turn orchestrator that will then get all the list of cards that are supposed to execute in order, and then it sets up the context that's necessary for each of those cards to actually execute its abilities. But a card is unable to act on its own, right? And even when I'm doing something like moving around the overworld map, I'm essentially just handling like when I detect that a map node has been clicked, then I just, in a very top-down way, I move the player and then I set up all the data. So it's not, there's not really room for composition per se. It's all very like orchestrated top-down. I think I've seen the trait and strategy command patterns if we're speaking in object-oriented. Game state equals performed turn game state. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not like, I don't have like a good theoretical knowledge of all the patterns, but I think, yeah, strategy command, it sounds like I'm doing something like that. I am using composition in some ways, like with my ability system, but that's composition with purely code. I'm not doing that with nodes. Anyway, so we've got the sub viewport here. Clear mode always, update mode always. We're not going to handle any input. Default texture filter nearest. I actually don't know how these sub viewports work entirely. We can see the sub viewport is all black now, but if I add a camera 2D and I move this position, does that change the sub viewport? It does not. Unless it is working. I don't know enough about how these work. Oh, I probably... No. Let's do something here. So that's my sub viewport texture. Okay, the camera doesn't seem to make any difference in the positioning of the elements. So that's kind of weird. I thought that cameras could work in sub viewports. Maybe I'm wrong. Viewports can also choose to be audio listener. Oh wait, depending on the... Maybe the camera does work, it just doesn't update the... Maybe it just doesn't update the rendering texture here. I don't know. What happens if I just do this? I guess I'm not going to see it. It's going to be off the screen. Just get rid of the fog of war texture, I guess. Okay, so that actually does look different. Hold on a second. Maybe the camera does work in here and it's just not... Maybe it's just not updating in the editor preview? Oh yeah, yeah, it is working. Why is it getting cut off right there though? There's some weird stuff happening. Oh, I can see that the camera... Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, so what's happening is this color rect is fixed in a position. It doesn't follow the camera because it's got its own world position. And so the camera is up in the top left here. So what it's doing is it's only capturing this section of that color rect, but it's capturing the full sprite 2D here. So that's perfect. So the idea is I'll put a camera underneath this sub viewport and I'll basically just lock this camera to have the exact same position as like the world camera or the map camera. So I'm basically just duplicating a lot of world positions in this sub viewport here for the purpose of drawing onto this texture here. What would you recommend for a dialogue heavy game? I'm sorry, I've never made a dialogue heavy game. You're asking me all the questions about stuff I've never done. I haven't done 3D, I haven't done dialogue, so... I know that there are a couple of dialogue plugins for Godot, like Dialogic is a popular one. I would definitely... I guess if I were to make a dialogue heavy game, the first place I would look is I would look to see if like Dialogic or something could be a plugin that I would use for that Dialogic or for that dialogue heavy game. Because, you know, those plugins will have tools and APIs available to you for managing different dialogue states and whatnot, so you don't have to make it yourself. That's where I would start looking anyway. But like I said, I've not done it before, so... Okay, now let's try this. I want to do a canvas layer here, put the color rect underneath that, and now what I should see is that the background becomes pure black. Okay, that appears to work. Let's make this layer -1. Yeah. So now I've got a fixed black background. And then I've got my fog reveal nodes here. Okay, so now we have to change. So the trick that we need to do now is we need to match this camera 2D up with the map camera, which is in this map container here. Okay, this is going to be a little bit tricksy. It's going to be a little bit tricksy. Anyway, so we're not using the fog of war texture. I'm going to, where is this saved in? Show in file system, map. Okay, let's just create a new scene for this. I think this can be isolated to its own scene. So we're going to do fog of war viewport. I guess I'll call it sub viewport. Fine, I'll name it correctly. Jeepers. Save, branch as scene, fog of war sub viewport. Okay, so we can isolate, we can add a script to this to just kind of like set everything up properly. I will add a sprite 2D here. Oh wait, no, I can't do that. All right, never mind. Okay, so we've got the fog of war sub viewport here. We've got our camera 2D. I might as well just go ahead and add a node 2D here for reveal textures. Yeah, that should be fine. So we got the camera 2D. This camera needs to match the map camera. So let's do this. Scripts, create game.ui.map, I think is where it's supposed to go. Oh, this is not the right namespace either. Okay. So let's override the process. Public override void process, not PES, process. What I'm going to want to do here is I want to do a public override, or not public override void, public void set map camera. This is probably not the way to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. This map camera equals map camera. We're just going to very basically do this. We're going to say we need to grab a node. So node private camera 2D camera dot global position is equal to map camera dot global position. Camera dot offset is equal to map camera dot offset. So we're just going to match up the offset and global position of the map camera so it's matched equally. And then in my game map here, I'm going to want to get a reference to that Fog of War sub viewport. On ready, we're going to say Fog of War sub viewport dot set map camera, and then we're going to do map container dot map camera. Cool. Very nice. Okay. Access as unique name there. This is actually going to be a lot nicer in a lot of ways, I think. But we're going to need the Fog of War reveal texture here. Fog of War reveal texture. And so now we got to get all of this functionality from this into the Fog of War viewport. I started making an idle auto battler where I have a battle manager auto load that sends out a signal to up to 3 battle scenes, and so all actions are based on a tick signal that each battle scene connects. Yeah, that sounds like the right way to do it. I mean, that's very similar to what I'm doing. I'm not using signals because the signals are emitted in the order that they're connected to, and that can be a little bit hard to trace because, you know, if you're connecting to signals from multiple different places in the tree, it can sometimes be hard to reason about which nodes are connecting to which signals first. So, at least in my case, I just prefer a top-down approach where instead of sending out signals that need to be responded to, I am from the orchestrator just getting a list of all of the things in order that I need to execute, and I'm executing them. And the other benefit of that too is that, you know, in my game, when a board's health reaches 0, either the player's board or the enemy's board, I need to cease all operations. Like as soon as health hits 0, I need to cease any abilities that are being executed, any effects that are happening, any statuses. And the reason is because I don't want to end up in a bad state where the game says, oh, somebody's health reached 0, but then because I'm not ceasing all operations immediately right there, in comes a heal, and now all of a sudden you lost the battle even though on your screen it says you have 10 health, right? So having a top-down orchestrated way of doing that where the operation can be ended at any time ensures that I won't end up in a bad state where, you know, I've got some weird confusing, like the battle ended but it still says I have health, or the battle ended but the enemy has 0 health and it said I died, right? Anyway, so, but you can definitely make it work with signals. It's just the problem with signals is they're not two-way, right? They're one-way. You can't get a result, like you can't emit a signal and then get a result from that signal from the person who is responding, or from the thing that's responding to that signal. And if the response to a signal emission is, hey, you need to end the game, you kind of end up in a weird situation where that's not really feasible to handle. I would also recommend a flowchart for organizing your dialogue. Dialogic is a big time investment and distraction that makes things more complicated and frustrating. Nick knows more about this than I do, so I would defer to Nick on this stuff. Godot has a translation API, yeah, that's true. You can just store the dialogue inside of scripts, or should I use resources? You could probably do both. All you need is a set of strings and a window to display them, create a basic dialogue system. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm thinking with dialogue system is like if you're gonna have branching dialogue that has multiple different options and that you're gonna have like a reactive story where, you know, an hour into the game, you're gonna have different dialogue based on what you did at the beginning. That's gonna be very, very complicated, and that would be a very difficult system to set up yourself, I think, or at least very time consuming. But if you just wanna have like, you know, your character that you're talking to has 3 options all the time, then yeah, you can just do it hard-coded. Just make scripts since inevitably you want eventing, conditional dialogue, you might want loops at some point, yeah. GD script is already a scripting language, so you just extend a base character class script for each NPC, give it interact or talk function you implement per NPC you create. Hey, how's it going? Hello, Mike. Welcome. It's going well. How are you doing? I was today years old when I found out that if you type % before the node name, Godot will automatically make it unique for you. Oh, really? Oh, interesting. Top-down approach is honestly king. Event-driven design almost always becomes non-deterministic mess. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. That's why I like the ECS pattern. It's basically all deterministic if you build it correctly. Yeah, determinism especially is very important. Like, I think if you're doing like a real-time game, then yeah, it doesn't have to be deterministic because it's like, you know, this game state is changing every single frame and based on the inputs of all the entities or the actions of all the entities. So in that situation, it doesn't have to be deterministic necessarily. But yeah, if you're doing like a card game or you're doing like a turn-based game of some kind, I think you definitely want to go like a top-down route, and like signals should not really be used for orchestrating your turns. They can be used to update UI elements and notify other game systems of things having happened, but your core combat turn-based system needs to be very like highly controlled, I think. I put all same frame actions into a queue. Oh, that's one way to do it, yeah. Hello, Jagged Daytona, welcome back. Always good to see you. It's a big topic, yeah. Someone said ECS. Oh, we got ECS and now wave function collapse. Here we go. Now we're talking. Here's what I'm going to do, actually. Oops. Map container dot node revealed plus equals on node revealed. Node index run map node, okay. Add revealed position. I'm going to copy a lot of this over. Private hash set vector. I'm going to use vector2i revealed positions. Can I change this position to a vector 2i? Is that going to break anything? I need to update my Godot utilities library with some of these helper functions. Public static round to vector 2i. Return new vector 2i. Okay, position dot round to vector 2i. That's probably all right. I probably broke a lot of stuff, but that's all right. Oops. Yeah, that should work. I don't see why not. I don't need this revealed positions to scale anymore. Add revealed position. Why do I have the node index in here? I don't understand that. Anyway, this is going to be a lot simpler now because what I can do... I can just do this. Var sprite 2D is equal to new sprite 2D. Texture equals fog of war revealed texture. Global position is equal to position. Scale is vector 2.0 z index. I don't know why the z index is there. Okay. We're going to do tween property. Well, I should probably reveal textures, add child sprite 2D. Tween property. Oh, I already had tween property in there. Oops. 0.75. Sprite 2D. String sprite 2D dot property name dot scale vector 2.1 0.75. Okay. We don't need this anymore. So if I go to my game map here, we've got this fog of war sub viewport. We're going to do fog of war sprite. This is using that sub viewport, and then I need to take this fog of war, this material here. We're going to copy this material and paste it here. Now, unfortunately, I think I need to change this fog of war shader. This is probably going to be using the screen texture. Yeah, we're going to get rid of this screen texture here. Gradient value is equal to texture, texture, UV, texture, UV. This Fog of War sprite needs to not have its offset centered, I think. Oh, I hope that's right. Well, only one way to find out. I tried a turn-based RPG with events not recommended. Yeah. There's an ECS lib for C# that I found that seems decent. It's called Arch. That's fine. I think that's fine, whatever. We are deep into the bowels of game dev today. I might just do this to make this easier on myself. Vector 2 float position. Am I ever setting this? Why is this here? Maybe I broke something, I don't know. Just make my life easier. Okay. Let's see what happens. So need to check out Arch. That API looks awesome. It appears as if it is not working. Oh, I probably... Did I never set the texture? Yeah, I never set the texture. Let's try it again. Oh, we have a problem now with the shifting. Interesting. So now the borders are shifting around here. I think that's just a matter of I need to set... Oh, I think I need to set some properties on here. On the material. Fog of War sprite. Yeah, I need to set the global top left position to get the offsets correct. I think I deleted something to that effect. I think I need this. Yeah. Okay, let's do this. Private material, light rect material, private material. Oh no, I do shader material. Shader material. Fog of War sprite material. Okay, let's see if that works. Nope, it's still not working. Also, it appears not to be adding halfway points anymore. Why? What happened there? Okay, so we've got a number of problems here. I need this half length. Right. We'll fix one of these problems at a time here. I don't have any errors, do I? I don't. Oh, I need to iterate over the connections, right? Okay, let's just copy this then. Load position, direction to node position, distance to node position divided by 2. I'm going to do add revealed position. What? What is even going on here? Okay, I guess this is fine. Okay, let's see if that fixes that. Then we'll figure out why is that shifting? The borders are shifting on scroll, which is kind of annoying. Okay, that looks back to normal here. Global top left position. Get viewport, get camera 2D, get screen center position minus get viewport rect dot size divided by 2. That shader parameter, shader global top left position. Is that what it's called? Yeah. So in the map container, or the game map here, Fog of War sprite material. Oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm setting the wrong thing. That's a relief. I gotta get the Fog of War sprite in here. Okay, now hopefully it works. There we go. Much nicer. Now I'm curious one thing too. Debug notoriety level. I want to see what happens when the camera shake happens, because in the previous implementation of the Fog of War, when the camera would shake on the overworld map, the Fog of War wouldn't match it. But I wonder if that's fixed now because of using the sub viewport. Oh. Okay, I think I did this wrong. Let's do this instead. I'm gonna reorient this. I'm gonna have all kinds of issues like that. Round 2, vector 2i. Okay, int position, position, int position. Okay. That's probably better. That was funny, yeah. Just click to move and it just gets stuck in place. Oh, I kind of want to see all the places that I changed here. That's fine. That's fine. All this is good. That's good. Okay, I think we're all right. Cool. 43 people watching and 3 likes. Come on, people, let's give some likes. Yeah, please give me the likes. I'm but a starving YouTuber. Every like feeds me for 1 minute. Oh, yeah, that's much better. All right, the Fog of War is now looking a lot better. It's a lot easier to manage now, too, because I can just add these textures to this revealed textures as I need to, and everything else is just going to work. So that's a lot nicer than the Fog of War texture. So the next step here is I'm going to say complete move of Fog of War to sub viewport. So now the next thing to do is to completely remove that Fog of War texture here. So we're going to delete the scene. We're going to delete that. Game map, let's remove it from here first. We're going to delete this Fog of War texture. Remove. We're going to delete the script. And then we got to delete all the references to it. Which should only be like one place. Okay. Let's build this. For me, it says 10 likes. Awesome. Love your work, man. Greetings from Brazil. Well, thank you, and welcome to the stream, Evandro. Appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and run. See if that removal worked properly. So yeah, animating those fog reveals is much nicer as well. Previously, I had to like map a tween to a revealed texture with the custom drawing functions, and it was kind of, did I say revealed trailer? Revealed texture, and it was kind of a little bit to manage. But Anyway, the whole reason I moved all this stuff to the or to the sub viewport now is because now we can go back to focusing on the floating eye here. And it should be easier to map a floating eye instance to a texture, an individual sprite texture in here. And then we can move that texture around inside the Fog of War sub viewport in response to the eye moving around. And that will allow me to see temporarily any revealed nodes. Now, I think what's going to be a little bit complicated here, though, is I'm going to be removing... Let me think. Right now, there's a problem, which is that I can hover over... nodes that are not revealed. So here, I can hover over this. That's not a revealed node. So I'm actually going to need to like temporarily reveal and enable hovering of nodes that are underneath the eyeball, which I think should be fine. I just got to figure out how to get all those systems working. Basically, I'll just need some conditionality on whether the mouse events are being handled on hover by these map nodes. One condition will be it has to be permanently revealed because you've discovered it. And the other condition will have to be, or it's sort of like under the gaze of the eyeball with some temporary reveal. I think I could just do like a lock system. I could just have a temporary reveal count. So if there's multiple eyeballs acting on the same node, which could be a possibility, then I'll just say, oh, well, the lock count is 2. And as long as the lock count is greater than 0, then it's hoverable. So if the lock count is greater than 0, it's hoverable, or if it's been permanently revealed, it's hoverable. I think that will work. Just going to need to manage that carefully, I guess. Anyway, we are past the 2-hour mark now, and I'm getting hungry, so it's time for lunch for me. So I'm going to stop the stream there. But thank you all for watching. I hope that was interesting. It was certainly interesting for me. That was a lot easier than I was expecting it to be too, which is great. So I've got this Fog of War system set up in a much nicer way that's much more extensible, I think. And so yeah, that's going to be it for the stream today. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. If you're interested, please wishlist Alchemortis on Steam. That's the best thing you can do to help out my project here. And also, you can join the Patreon for some nice perks if you're interested. You can also purchase one of my Udemy courses if you want to learn how to build games in the Godot engine. And you can also join the Discord. That's free to do. So all those links are in the description below. I hope to see you all tomorrow when I stream at 10 a.m. Eastern. And I also hope you have a good rest of your day. And yeah, talk to you later. Bye-bye.